Shockwaves were sent yesterday after the Chicago Sky made a trade sending Marina Mabrey to the Connecticut Sun in exchange for two veteran players. We're going to talk about that kind of now that all the details and everything's kind of out on the trade, as well as now we know why that trade went down. We're going to talk about that. Plus, I want to talk about who else could be traded if the Chicago Sky are really open for business at the trade deadline. And then lastly, the WNBA's new big TV deal. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
What's going on, Sky fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Sky Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chicago Sky Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content. So, the Marina Mabrey trade went down. Just to kind of recap for everyone, it was Marina Mabrey going to the Connecticut Sun for Rachel Banham, Mariah Jefferson, a 2025 first-round pick, and a pick swap in 2026. Why can't I talk today? And so we now know that this trade went down not because the GM or anybody was looking to move off of it, but because Marina Mabrey requested a trade. That's what it's been alluded to. She wanted to go somewhere and compete for more. And this is going to play into a lot of what Sky fans are already feeling about Marina Mabrey. There have been a lot of Sky fans that feel like maybe she didn't mesh well with Angel and, had issues. Even though we've seen them off the court, I don't agree with that statement. But maybe on the court, it was just a thing of Marina Mabrey looked at the situation and said, this isn't originally why I came here. When the sign-in trade because keep in mind, it was a sign-in trade. It wasn't just a trade that brought Marina Mabrey to the Chicago Sky. It was to pair her with Kahleah Copper for a team that was trying to still compete and build around their former finals MVP and go for it. Injuries, other things that happened ended up taking away from that. But the Sky are in a much different place now than when they signed and traded for Marina Mabrey. Apparently, Marina Mabrey wanted out. And if that's the decision that she made, that's the decision that she made. She has to live with that. She is going to a very deep Connecticut Sun team that could use her shooting. They are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league, even though still being one of the more efficient offenses in the league as well. The Connecticut Sun are really going to be able to use what Marina Mabrey brought. And for that, I'll look at Jeff Pagliocci and say this. If you have players that don't want to be here in what you're building, you don't try to hold on to those players. It's much like why we even got here, right? Kahleah Copper, I won't say she didn't want to be here, but they couldn't build a team around her that they felt was going to be able to compete quick enough that made sense holding on to Kahleah Copper. They end up talking with Kahleah. Kahleah agreed. They move on. If you don't want to be here, and I don't mind, people have asked what kind of precedent are the Sky setting. I have no problem with a precedent being set of if you don't want to be here, if you don't want to be in this building, regardless of what it is. It can be valid reasons. It can be selfish reasons. It can be whatever. If you don't want to be here, then don't be here. You can either make this team or you cannot be on this team. That's what it comes down to. And that's not anything that I personally, as a basketball watcher and a fan of the Sky, I have no issue with it. Now, that does not mean they made a great trade for Marina Mabrey. I've seen a lot of Sky fans, I don't know, I won't say, because I don't want to disrespect anybody's thinking, I won't say that they're necessarily talking themselves into this being a better trade than what it is, but I do see them trying to make a conversation around the pieces that we got back and make it more than what it's out to be. I get it. Everybody, Rachel Banham made 8 3-pointers. That does not change, to me, the player that you have been over the course of your entire career, to me. Now, Rachel Banham also, even against my own point, has been a player that has never really played a lot of minutes. When you look at her career, the most minutes that she's ever played for any team was 17 minutes. And that was her first year in Minnesota. She also only started 1 game. She's only started 12 games over the course of her WNBA career. Those are the facts. Also, when you look at the facts, people that are saying that she's this great three-point shooter because of the percentages, I need you to also look at the value. She's a player that, shoots at a career 37%, which is a great percentage, but she only takes 2.9 three-pointers per game. Even at the percentage that she shoots it at, it's only an average of 1.1 three-pointers made per game. That's not all of a sudden going to transform the Chicago Sky when you also are losing, even with her slump, the best three-point shooter that you've had on your team. So, again, another narrative that I fight against. I understand that people are hopeful, and maybe she does come in with having a larger role. She does come in and shoots the 3 ball at a higher clip than what she's gotten opportunities to at her career. For comparison to that, Marina Mabrey, while only a 35.8, so a 36% three-point shooter over her career, she takes 5 per game. So for the Sky, for example, she was taking 6.7 3-pointers per game, hitting that at only a 34% clip, but she was making almost 2.5 3-pointers per game. So again, not a huge amount, but she still was the Chicago Sky's best 3-point shooter. So you bring in Rachel Banham, who, in talking to some of you guys, you think that she's going to be somebody that has been undiscovered, things like that, that can still have some untapped things. I don't necessarily hold that. I look at a player 31 years old. They're usually who they are at that point in time. So I don't necessarily view it that way. But for people that do, hopefully she does come in to this team and she ends up playing. Now, outside of that, she only has 1 year left on her contract after this season. And that's the more important part of this, is that this contract is much less than what it was for Marina Mabrey, which adds some flexibility for the Chicago Sky to go out and get. So I'm not looking at Rachel Banham or necessarily Mariah Jefferson, another player over 30 who right now isn't cleared, hasn't been scheduled to be cleared, but is another player that, while showing some promise at 5'6", hasn't really shown enough to me that says it's going to up the ceiling of what the Chicago Sky team is. I don't believe the Chicago Sky got better with this trade. Now, when you look at it, she's also a career 39% 3-point shooter, but she takes 2 per game. That means that on average, she makes less than 1 3-pointer per game for her career. Not really changing much of the narrative there, right? But the Sky the thing that makes this deal special to me is the fact that you got another first-round pick. Now, there's a couple of things that could happen here. I don't think the Sky got better. Let's say the Sky do miss the playoffs. Then your own pick gets better, right? You have a higher pick that you can go out and get your actual point guard of the future. But let's say some of you guys are right. The Sky stay where they are. They make the playoffs, which, listen, when you look at it, and I know some people have asked, well, the Dallas Wings own a pick swap. When you look at the Sky having a 4-game lead over the Dallas Wings, the fact that if you look at the schedule as well and the strength of schedule and what the Dallas Wings schedule is, the Sky would almost have to lose out completely for the Dallas Wings pick to end up being better than, worse, because that's what would be the swap, for it to end up being a worse pick than what the Chicago Sky are going to pick. That's not likely to happen. So with that said, I do think that if the Sky do miss the playoffs, you get a better pick. It's all said and done. You're good, right? And I don't think the Sky have gotten worse to the point where they're going to bottom out and tank. They're not tanking. They just could have maybe made their chances harder to make the playoffs. But if the Sky do make the playoffs, which is still fine, you're getting your young players experience, things like that. You now have 2 first-round picks that you can package together to move up in the draft if you need to make sure you go out and get your player, which is something that teams will do in a deep draft. So the Sky have done some things that make some sense on paper. Like I've said, ultimately it comes down to you moved off a player that didn't want to be here. I can't knock you for that. Now, with that, though, the Sky have also taken up their last and final roster spot, meaning they have no more roster spots to go out and sign anybody over this break, which could be fine, right? Could the Sky, though, be interested in making more moves out in the market? And that's where it gets a little interesting at. Now, we've seen it. We've heard it from the Chicago Tribune, also the Chicago Sun-Times, that the Sky could look to move Dana Evans. When you add 2 point guards, if Mariah Jefferson is also going to be healthy, that may be a case. I don't think the Sky are going to get anything crazy back for Dana Evans. So the Sky fans that are asking, well, why is Dana here? Why is Diamond still here? A, because they didn't ask out, and B, because even if they did, you're not going to get the type of deal you got back from Marina Mabrey. So let's see how the Sky take advantage of the situation that they were forced into due to Marina Mabrey requesting a trade out of here. That's my thought process. You guys can let me know what you guys think on all that down below. I do think that the Sky could be a team that's shopping. Maybe even looking to shop maybe some of their picks, or even the pick that they got for some talent that they think can help now. That's a possibility. I just don't still expect them to be a super active team at the trade deadline, which is a little over a month away. We still will come back. I think we'll have 2 games before the trade deadline. I know we'll have at least 1. And we'll see what comes about that for the Chicago Sky. But this is a change for the roster. And some will look at it as a change for the best. Some will look at it as a questionable change. But ultimately, like I said, regardless of how you view it, as a change for the best or a change that's going to make the Chicago Sky worse, to me, in a rebuilding team, I don't want anybody who don't want to be here. And that could be a petty side of me. That could be the Chicago Adam coming out. Like, I don't know what it is. But if you don't want to be here, cool. Go handle your business. We'll handle ours here. We'll be all right in the long run. With that said, though, and talking about being all right in the long run, before we go, and this was something I had already planned on talking about, is the WNBA signed a new media rights deal that's worth $2.2 billion. And why should we care about it? Well, the thing is now, when you look at the Chicago Sky right now, The Sky have a deal right now making $50 million per year. And everybody knows, well, let me not say everybody. If you're a new WNBA fan, one of the things that is interesting about the WNBA is that we have always operated at a loss. The WNBA has lost money every year of its existence. If it wasn't for the NBA supplementing the WNBA, the league would have been shut down a long time ago. Now, when you look at the league almost quadrupling their revenue, they go from a media rights deal that was gaining them $50 million per year to now a media deal that's going to gain them $200 million per year. That is a huge increase. Now, the new CBA is coming up at the end of the 2025 season. We could see a big rise in contracts for the WNBA, which could make that margin a little bit interesting again as well. But hearing that the NBA played a really big role in helping to negotiate these rights, this is instead of supplementing the WNBA, to me, the NBA should have always been, and this is a selfish thing as a WNBA fan, packaging their TV contracts with the WNBA to make more money. That's just my personal opinion. You look at the WNBA, the NBA, for example, they just signed an 11-year contract worth $75 billion, right? So the fact that a lot of the same partners there, NBC, Disney, Amazon, are some of the same people that are in now this deal with the WNBA, ESPN, NBC, Amazon, right? And Disney owns ESPN, so there you go on that one, is that this is a really good deal to get the Sky more revenue. This is really good on top of adding new teams to the league. This is all starting to make sense. We are now could be on a path, as long as the interest in the WNBA sustains and this isn't a 1-2 year fad, as long as this sustains, right, the WNBA could be making its way towards profitability way sooner than what they were looking like before. And that is why I got to commend the WNBA for taking advantage of it, the NBA for helping them in this deal, helping negotiate this deal. Now it's how does the WNBA capitalize on this? Reportedly that they're not done yet either making deals, that they are still looking for other packages and other rights that they can also sell off to bring in another $60 million annually from other deals as well. And again, that's the WNBA finally operating as a business, and that's what we need to see. If the WNBA continues this, and like I said, that interest does not wane, which it doesn't seem like it's doing. I got to give the new WNBA fans credit this season. While some are narrative-driven, right, that's a small vocal community. Most of the fans are here and they seem engaged. We are finally converting over some of the NCAA women's fans over to WNBA fans. And that's something that the WNBA is going to have to continue to do, pushing their stars, developing their stars, the personalities. They're going to have to keep doing that if they want this train to continue. But for once, the WNBA seemed to make a great deal that is best for now and for the future of the league. And on top of that, if this thing continues, the growth, the interest in the WNBA with this new TV contract, I personally think that we will probably be at 20 teams in the WNBA within the next 10 years. Keep in mind, we already got 2 new teams coming that's going to push the league to 14 teams. That means that's next season, then the season after. So that would mean over 8 years after that second team joins, which is the Valkyrie, right? 8 years after that, you're adding 4 more teams over the next, or 6 more teams over 8 years. And I do think that that's something that the WNBA could feasibly do. And if you're sustaining that with the number of stars, adding more jobs as well, that now you have a sustainable league. All things aren't perfect yet. WNBA still gotta get their like I said, build their stars. They still got to get their merchandise kind of better. It's been a lot better this season. For those that don't know, there are times where you can order a WNBA jersey and not get it for 2 months. Those things have fixed. Now, it's still kind of a longer wait time than especially in NBA, but we're seeing the correction of those things. More brand deals for players, more shoe endorsements, things like that. We're doing the things to see this league start growing. And I, for one, as a WNBA fan that's been watching this league for over a decade, I'm glad that we're finally starting to get to a place where this is finally operating as a sports league, because that's the good part that's there to see. And I love that part of it. And yeah, like I said, the growth of the WNBA is huge. You have deep drafts for the next 3 years. Basically, you got at least 1 to 2 to 3 stars potentially coming in each one of those drafts over the next 3 years. The WNBA has to continue to develop this. They have to continue to push it, and let's hope that they do. But that's my thought process on it. As always, you guys can let me know what you guys feel and think down below. Thank you for supporting Chicago Sky Central through this season. All the new fans, the old fans, whatever it is, we appreciate you guys for being the best part of Chicago Sky Central. But you can follow us at Chicago Sky Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoSkyCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Sky related. That's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, I'll see you guys the next time we go to Skytown, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.